Throughout 2025, I experienced a lot of media. From anime to video games and everything in between, here's the third edition of me recalling to all of you the media I experienced throughout 2025 and ranking them. Like the last two, these will be divided up into chapters, so if you want to skip to my least favorite or my favorite media I experienced last year, hit up the description chapter select and it'll take you right there. The media doesn't have to be explicitly released in 2025, just that I had experienced it to completion in 2025. So for example, Persona 5X will not be a part of this, because Atlas has currently forgotten to write an ending for it. Maybe it's hidden in the dozens of microtransactions in the store, but that's a journey for later. Like always, if you have your own favorite or least favorite pieces of media you experienced last year and would like to share it, feel free to post it in the comments below. I'd love to read them. With all that said, let's begin. So like last year, there were a lot of entries for this rank to go through, but unlike last year, there's not a definitive worst one to pick, because there was a four-way tie for that spot. So after some thought, I reached a decision. My least favorite media of 2025 is Pokemon Run and Bun. I understand this was designed for the hardcore competitive scene of the Pokemon franchise, so it's not going to be a great experience for casual players and the like, and I get that. But as someone who enjoys playing difficult games sometimes and has also delved into the competitive scene of the franchise on numerous points throughout my life, I thought this game would satisfy those cravings. After playing this game, I'd rather eat a raw fucking egg because holy fuck, this is atrocious. This game has some of the worst level/dungeon design I've seen in a long fucking time. The team compositions are next to non-existent in a franchise that has some of the best compositions in the genre. The quality of life features only make the game more fucking tedious than helpful, and barely anything else was upgraded/changed to make Base Emerald a game that, may I remind you, is oversaturated to hell and back with ROM hacks, much better/interesting than its competition. Why would I play this over Emerald Kaiser, which is part of a subgenre notorious for kicking you in the dick repeatedly, mind you, which has better team compositions and better designed enemy team/dungeon designs? The answer is, I wouldn't. And here's the thing, like I said earlier, I love difficult games like Dark Souls and Mario Lost Levels and Super Meat Boy. They offer so much besides being incredibly difficult, and additionally, those games fill me with serotonin for completing their challenges. All this game fills me with this hatred, and that fucking sucks to say, because I know the dev team put a lot of effort into this game. Hopefully their next project will be better than this, but for now, I got other media to rip into. Survivor Thailand. So I've already done a review of this on the channel, but to TLDR the whole thing, this season is some of the worst contestants of the original era. Some of the moves were fucking stupid, the winner sucked ass, the treatment of Gandia's sexual assault was abysmal, and not even the challenges were all that great. The Survivor community considers Thailand to be one of the worst seasons of Survivor, and now that I've seen it for the first time, I can absolutely see why. Fuck! Forbidden Memories Pokemon mod. The drop rates are abysmal, barely anything has changed outside of the cards, the difficulty is all over the goddamn place, worse than Forbidden Memories in that aspect, and the grind is also somehow worse than Forbidden Memories, even if you have the 15 card mod enabled. Frankly, just stick to the base Forbidden Memories, this was not at all worth it. Not tonight. This game pissed me the hell off. This game is bloated as all hell, gets repetitive super quickly, the music fucking sucks, and the stories/choices you make do not matter no matter what, because you will lose. You do your job, you lose. You avoid your job, you lose. You side with your fucking resistance, you lose. Even the endings where you aren't thrown in prison or killed suck donkey dick, as the fall of the evil regime the game has you working for doesn't feel fucking satisfying, and if you side with the regime and do everything correct, it also doesn't feel satisfying. What the fuck? Even if that was the point, I still hate it, since just because there's a reason for something doesn't mean I have to like it, and I don't in this case, because it's not interesting or executed all that well here. It's just there to basically show you that your choices mean jack shit, something I could have seen for myself for free by walking outside my house. Fuck this game. The Invisible Hand. Oh great, another game you play once on a lunch break is overpriced to hell and back, and is super dull. Holy fuck, this is dry. Rogue Heroes Ruins of Tassos. An absolute waste of my time. The level design sucked, the audio sucked, the bosses sucked, the items sucked, the controls were wonky as were the physics. It was not a fun game to play. At the very least, though, the pixel art was good. Risk of Rain 2. A massive slog from start to finish. The level design sucked, the bosses suck, the music sucks, the gradual improvement from run to run is non-existent here, and you don't really get much to boost yourself unless you beat the game once. It is a fucking mess, and that hurts to say. Personally, just save your money and buy Dead Cells instead. The Florida Project. Super slow in terms of pacing, the characters were forgettable, the cinematography was so-so, and the story is super vague unless you have the synopsis on hand. I will say it's slightly better than the other entries because of one thing. Willem Dafoe is in this, and he is a great part of this movie. And that's it. Alright, and that takes care of the F rank/tiers, so now we're going to move into the D tier. And to kick it off, we have the last season EAS scenario. Technically this counts as a movie, so that's why I'm including it here. Pretty good visual editing, but oh my god, the story and audio are shit, and that's a fucking shame. There are also numerous portions where the audio is too messy to hear properly and the pacing is fucking wonky. I go a bit deeper into my issues with this scenario on the Matty Presents' EAS episode, so I'm going to leave a card up top for those who are interested. But yeah, this was not my cup of tea at all. And sadly, this isn't going to be the last one in this fucking tier. My yandere girlfriend lurks in the dungeon and kills me over and over again. I kept seeing this on my feed for some reason, so I decided to finally read it. It took 20 chapters before we got the crumbs of a fucking story going. The characters also suck, the art is so-so, and it's so fucking repetitive. Fucking yawn. Sailor Moon Eternal / Cosmos' movies. Both have the same issues as each other, so I'm combining them into one entry here. These two movies are summaries of the arcs in question, and I fucking hate it. It's heavily faithful to the manga, sure, and they achieved that by squishing all of it into 2 hours and 40 minutes for both Eternals and Cosmos. Sure, the animation is pretty, and we do get to see the final arc adapted properly. But it's similar to A Monkey's Paw. It grants the wish, but also gives you 10,000 cons that make it not worth it in the end. What a fucking shame. The fan bases are so much better than this. Thief Simulator. The fun wore off super quick, it's poorly optimized, insanely repetitive, the graphics are meh as is the audio. It was super forgettable and also feels like a game you play once on your lunch break and then completely forget about. Double Dragon 1 on the NES. Got very repetitive, very fast, the enemy variety sucked as well as the level design, and the final level is dog shit. Pokemon Black Pearl Emerald. Basically, the radical red of Emerald in both all the good and bad ways. The pixel art is really good, and the quality of life stuff is great, but holy fuck is this not fun to play unless you really, really love using only Uber Pokemon, and even that's a crapshoot sometimes in this game. Cassette Beasts. I also talked about this on the channel previously, but I was incredibly disappointed with this game. The graphics and audio are pretty good, but the story and characters suck, the battle system is not my cup of tea, and the game is frustratingly cryptic for no reason at points. What a fucking shame. Duke Nukem 3D. It started off really fun and witty, but it wore out its welcome quickly as the game is heavily bloated, as so many enemies are damage sponges, the music is meh, and the level design is not my cup of tea at all. That being said, I can understand why it earned its place in history. It's just not my thing. Neocab. Started off fine, but it wore out its welcome very quick. The graphics are fine as well as the music, but I didn't care for the cast, the story is bad, the choice system locks you out of options depending on your mood, which is fucking stupid, and it's also super repetitive. Needless to say, this was not worth the price of admission for me. Pokemon The Pit. Interesting concept, but this got tiresome very quickly. The incentive to improve each run is non-existent, there's barely any variety for the floor since it's just straight up trainer fights, the music and graphics are meh, etc. What a fucking shame. Metroid New Zero Mission. I saw the high ratings and I got excited, but when I played it, it just constantly pissed me off. The level design is incredibly dickish, it's a lot more bloated than OG Zero Mission, and the progression is very off to me. However, I do hope their next project will be better. Iron Lung. This was certainly a game with graphics, sound, and gameplay. It was honestly just kind of forgettable outside of that, and the ending had me like, wait, that's how it ends? The fuck? At least I finally played it, but I ended up forgetting about this after a day. I do hope the movie is better than this, though, when I eventually get around to seeing it. Super Metroid X Fusion. Started off on an interesting note, and I think the implementation of the fusion assets are great, but oh my fucking god is it blowed to hell and back, and this game loves to kick you in the dick, and it's cheap as fuck. Also, fuck locking the good ending behind getting all the Edakuns, that shit was so fucking dumb. I do, however, wish Metaquarius the best on their future ROM hacks and games. Galvatron's Revenge. A very flawed and amateurish passion project with bad action scenes, cinematography, and animation. However, I can tell the director did care about this project, so I can't call it a spite work. That being said, fuck Orbital Bacon. SteamWorld Dig 2. This one felt way too similar to the first game and didn't really improve on the flaws I had with the first. The gameplay loop isn't as addicting as the first, the graphics are barely an upgrade, the music sucks, and the bosses suck. What a fucking shame. Pokemon Evolved. The initial premise sounded really interesting. Unfortunately, this falls flat super quickly because the execution is very poor. There's an inconsistent amount of evolutions per mon, some get like 5 in a line while others only get 2, and most of the final evolutions just miss the point of the mod entirely. Like with Alakazam and the Blissey line. In addition, lack of any real improvements to the gameplay/graphics also drag it down a bit. And sure, it's better than some of the Pokemon ROM hacks I talked about previously in this video, but given that the main focus of this hack is on the evolutions, and that's really all that was changed, and that element doesn't really work well here personally speaking, it kneecaps it enough to land in D tier, unfortunately. But like always, I do wish the team the best going forward with their future projects. Judgment Year, EAS. There are some cool visuals and some of the non-Gen AI edits are good, but the pacing is very wonky. The audio has some errors like not finishing sentences at a few points. It doesn't even adapt the Christian version of the end times correctly, etc. Oh, and as I went over in the EAS episode, the ending's very fucking stupid. Hyper Metroid Super. I love the new tile sets and the sprite work is fantastic, but oh my god, those fucking gates can kiss a taint because they add so many unnecessary hours to this game and they are a pain to fucking find. Just like getting all the damn temple keys in Prime 1. And like Prime 1, they're necessary to beat the game. Fuck off. Never again. Last Call BBS. It fucking sucks that this is Zachtronics' last game before they got shut down because this was not at all fucking worth it. $25 Canadian for a bunch of flash games you play on your lunch break and forget about after 30 minutes? No fucking thank you. What a damn shame. Link's Awakening DX. One of the last Zelda games I haven't played before now, and I'm so glad we've come a long way since then. A lot of the time is spent in the menu switching items, the music is meh, the dungeons suck. But at least the story is solid, and the graphics are great. And to close out this rank, we have Survivor Marquesas. The challenges were disappointing, the eliminations made less sense than earlier seasons, the editing was very wonky, particularly in its depiction of Vesepia. However, the modern tribe swap, transferable immunity necklaces, the loved ones visit, and the alliance composed of members from the two tribes were really good to see. That being said, fuck the rock draw. But yeah, it was a mess, but I can cut it a bit of slack because it was basically a rush production, and they had to make the best of a bad situation. But now we move into C tier. Kicking off C tier, we have Pokemon Platinum Redux. The pixel art of the regional variants are gorgeous, and some of the new moves are cool. However, the game is sadly mauled by its dungeon design and absurd difficulty spikes, as well as terrible trainer placements into dungeons. Honestly, it's worse than Run and Button points. But yeah, I still would rather play this over Run and Bun, so there's that. Sonic Omens. A mediocre fan game with a problematic story that doesn't make any sense for the franchise, mediocre graphics and audio, specifically its voice acting, also has atrocious tail stages. However, like I said in the video, it shows clear love for the franchise, so I can't really call it much of a spite work. Raiders of the Lost Ark. This was a big fucking slog. The pacing is slow, a lot of the scenes drag their feet, and a lot of the cast are about as deep as a puddle. However, Indy's character was great, as is his chemistry with Marion, and the action scenes were good. The Flame and the Flood. Started off on a good note, but then it started to get very buggy/glitchy as time went on, to the point that I got soft locked from the ending. What the fuck? Moonstone Island. Interesting idea, but it did get really boring after an hour. The monster designs are cool, but it feels like the different genres of gameplay this game has going for it were crammed in instead of just feeling like a natural addition. Overall, it was a neat idea, but I'm just not a fan of how it was executed. Spider-Man Lotus. The story is stretched out and dull, the characters are weak, and the acting fucking sucks. It has pretty good cinematography and music. I just wish it had a better script and some actors that weren't fucking creeps. Pokemon Crystal Clear. I appreciate the attempt at an open world Pokemon game with level curves and all that, but it feels so empty to traverse through since the story is non-existent, and the characters are bland. Also, the creator of this game is a piece of shit, so yeah, he can eat shit. Survivor 48. Probably one of my favorite casts of the new era by far. Kyle's gameplay was really good now that I look back and think about it, and the challenges were really cool. However, the merged gameplay was mostly shit, and a lot of the eliminations were incredibly fucking predictable. Rift Rangers. This game is fun in small doses, but it also feels incredibly underbaked. There's only 2 levels and 3 unlockable characters, while the achievements/unlockable options are incredibly sparse. Personally speaking, I think you're better off with just base Vampire Survivors with that kind of price. Super Metroid GBA Edition. I applaud the attempt at bringing this to the GBA, but its execution left a lot to be desired, and a lot of the stuff from the original Super Metroid was removed, like several of the bosses and mechanics, so it feels hollow as a result. That being said, I do wish the bros the best with their next hack. Halls of Torment. It started off interesting, and the graphics are great, but it started to lose its charm very quickly. The power-ups are meh, same with the music, and the gameplay loops lessons progression is just meh here. Not great, but not bad either. Bladed Fury. This was incredibly forgettable outside of the music and graphics. It's kind of like tofu for me. Goes in the body, but leaves no impact once it's digested. Inoffensive, but not something I'm going to play again. Metroid Galactic Marine. The game looks pretty, and there are some really cool concepts in here. But the game does have some issues with level design, its weapons, and its hitboxes, and fuck that final boss fight. But, like I said with other ROM hacks, I'm looking forward to their next work. Perfect Dark Recomp. It's okay, albeit a bit bloated at points, and some of the levels are designed to be a little too maze-like for my enjoyment, but there were some good moments in it, and the story is very fun. Also, the PC controls made it a lot easier to control the gun than on the N64, so there is that. But yeah, not bad. And to close out the C tier, we have Pokemon Gold and Silver 97 Reforged. I appreciate the attempt and vision of turning the 97 demo into a full game, and it was fun for the most part. However, it does feel a bit bloated at points, and the post-game is not that interesting personally. That being said, I would love to see more games like this. So now we move into B tier. So here's a surprise, a Silent Hill game. Silent Hill 4 The Room. A big improvement over Silent Hill 3 in terms of the story and slightly the gameplay, at least in the first half. And then the game drags its feet by having you backtracking through the same sections again, so you know, not as fun. But the first half is really good. Sticky business. Very fun for the first hour, but then it gets very samey very quickly. I guess if you have nothing better to do, it's fine, but I don't think it's worth the $12 Canadian it's going for. I just highly recommend getting it on sale instead. Survivor 49. It had some really good contestants, including a fantastic winner, but the challenges were mid and the merge felt really predictable after a while. But that pre-merge was really good shit. Far from a terrible season like 46, but it wasn't as great as 41, 42, or 47 personally speaking. Star Tropics. Ignoring how cryptic the game is, it's good. Graphics and sound are good and the story is interesting, but at points the controls can be a little stiff, the sub-weapons are meh, and that final dungeon can fuck all the way off. Pokemon Royal Sapphire. A great introduction for those who want to get into Pokemon ROM hacks, but as someone who's played plenty of ROM hacks by this point, it's a fine balance, but I don't think it's going to set the world on fire for people like me. Still though, I'm very excited for this creator's next project. Castlevania Serenade Under the Moon. I really appreciate the attempt to bring in Symphony of the Night to the Game Boy, but it does have its issues. The story doesn't really work here, the graphics can glitch sometimes, and it does feel very bloated at points. However, this was still a lot of fun, and it was a good attempt. Just enough to reach B tier at least. Pikmin 1. I like the concept, and the music plus graphics are good, but man, some of the bosses and enemies are uber cheap, and it can get a little tiring waiting for the Pikmin to reach the bulbs to make more. Still though, I'm really glad I got to experience this game, and as I'll get into later, the series does get a lot better. Megabong. For 13 bucks Canadian, I was expecting a lot more content than what Vampires gave for 6 Canadian. That being said, the game's still fun. Graphics and audio are good, and the roguelike elements work well. However, I feel the difficulties all over the place, and some of those achievements are fucking dog shit, especially the new ones at the time of recording this. Fuck those ads. Candyland, the Great Lollipop Adventure. I saw this with friends because of a cam sandwich video, yes, seriously, and much like candy, it doesn't have any substance, but it's a nice feeling when consuming it. Definitely not going to remember, but hey, it was a nice experience, albeit very stupid. Papers, Please. Got gifted this by my partner, and I liked it. The graphics and music are good, and the initial gameplay is great, and then the second half hit in slightly dips in quality, especially the story, but it was still a good time. Special Cybernetic Attack Team. I know what the abbreviation spells out, that joke has existed longer than I have been alive. Flushing away that mummified joke and diving deeper into the game's content, it's a pretty fun game, and the graphics / audio are good, but some of the enemy placement can be a bit cheap and block you up sometimes during the level, but yeah, the game is fun. Super Mario Mon. The pixel art music and story are fucking incredible, but the dungeon designs are very hit or miss, and fuck Rainbow Road's mock bike equivalent sections. That shit was bad in Emerald Sky Pillar, and it's bad here. Still though, great job to Alpha Red's team on this one. Pokemon Absolution Demo. Like I said, this is currently a demo, but from what I played, this was a good time. I love the new ideas for the regional variants and the convergence, and I'm always a sucker for Mega Man X music. And the new pixel art is really good. I just hope this gets finished, but yeah, this was fun. Pikmin 3 Deluxe. Like I said, Pikmin did get better after 1, and this is one instance of it. That being said, fuck the final boss. But yeah, story, graphics, audio, and the new Pikmin are really good, and it still contains a lot of the fun aspects that the series is known for, so yeah, good shit. My Melody and Kuromi. Sometimes I need some serotonin, and this easily filled me up on that front. The story and characters are mostly flat, but it's harmless, wholesome fluff that was a good time from start to finish. Arctic Hotel Simulator. Got gifted this by my lady, and it's a lot of fun / heavily addicting. However, I am docking it down to a B because of Gen AI usage for a few of the brush textures in the store page, even if it is a small usage. I was willing to give this an A back when it originally launched, however, this game was released in February of last year, and it still has that AI disclosure on the damn page. The fact it still has those fucking brush textures after all this time, despite having enough time and money to commission someone to make new ones to replace the Gen AI ones with actual brush textures, pisses me the fuck off. So yeah, that's why it's this low. Anyways, to close out the B tier we have Metroid Scrolls 6. This one was really good. I like that it replaced the power-ups with spells, and I like the different zones and concept. But I feel the tiles could have been under one art style and not ripped wholesale from the OG games. But that's honestly my only criticism of the game. Good job to the devs, and I'm interested to see what you're cooking up next. For now though, we move into A tier. Vice Project Doom. Genuinely fun from start to finish, the graphics and audio were good, level design is solid, the bosses are decent, and the story is interesting, but fuck that sequel hook. Callie's Trials. Pretty good time. Graphics are fine, the weapon leveling mechanic is cool, and the variety of weapons are pretty good, and also help with non-enemy situations like platforming, which is nice. Audio is good. Solid stuff. This one is pretty solid, pun unintended. The graphics are good, as is the level design, the color palette is nice. The only issue is that the final boss sucks, but it's also the same final boss from Zero Missions, so like, I can't be too surprised. You can't really make that fight good. Sorry. Record of Lodoss War, the 90s OVA. While a rushed adaptation of the novels, I really enjoyed watching this 13-episode series. The main cast is great, the animation and audio are fantastic, and the action is really good. I'm glad I finally got to see this. Good stuff. Pokemon Lazarus. Minus some graphical hiccups here and there, and a story that's just okay. Lazarus was pretty fun. The music is good, the graphics are incredible, and the variety of Pokemon are pretty good. But fuck the people who harass the dev. Those people are cringe. Blueprints. Got gifted this by my lady, and it was fun for the most part. The music is great, the puzzles are pretty good, the storytelling is interesting, and I like the idea of building your own house layout. The way to open the antechamber, however, is very annoying. Still though, a really good time. Mario 2 USA. I never did beat this until now, but yeah, this is a good sequel. It's a little different from Mario 1, but it's not a fucking ROM hack at least, and the music's level design is great. I will say, however, the bosses suck and or get very repetitive quickly. Still though, I had a lot of fun with this one. Pokemon Bioterror. I had fun with this game, and the graphics / sounds are great, but man, the writing for both the story and dialogue does have issues at a few points. Some of the dialogue can come off as cringy, and the story feels a little too stretched out by Chapter 3, the current end of the game. However, it didn't detract from my overall enjoyment enough to take it out of A tier. And I do hope the game does get finished / improves the issues as time goes on, because this is really interesting so far. Yet another Zombie Survivors. Got gifted this a while back, and this was a lot of fun. Gameplay is highly addicting, the different characters add in a nice variety for said gameplay, music and graphics are great, but the enemies can get a little overwhelming quickly. Still though, good stuff. Pseudo Regalia. This game was pretty fun, minus the occasional janky platforming and the story not being all that interesting. Also, Sybil is a precious bean. But yeah, good stuff. Castlevania Legends. This game is fun, but I'm kind of confused about the hate for it. The level design is good, the controls are good, the music is great, graphics are good for the time. The only issue is that the final boss wasn't all that great. But yeah, this was a really good game. Probably my favorite of the original Game Boy Castlevania games. Super Mario Wonder. Great level design and music, love some of the new power-ups and the selection of characters, but fuck making the Yoshis the easy mode and not just regular characters, and Florian's dialogue can be annoying and it's frustrating that it's unskippable. Campfire cooking in another world with my absurd skill. Saw this with my lady and it was a nice dose of serotonin. It's funny, the chemistry between Mukada, Fel, and Sui is fantastic, the animation is solid, etc. It's not the deepest story, but it's a good time, and I'm really interested to see what Season 2 brings to the table. And to close out the A tier is one hurt to put so low, but the S tier entries just slightly surpass this one, so that's why I gotta put it here, and that is Aria of Sorrow Reprise. The idea of an Aria of Sorrow roguelike is very interesting, and the execution is fan-fucking-tastic. However, sometimes the game would glitch and not count the enemies I killed, which are needed to open the boss fight. If that problem was fixed, I think this could easily be an S tier game. But as it stands, this is still one of my favorite Castlevania hacks out there. It's just not enough to hit the top tier. Speaking of which, the final tier is upon us. This year has 17 entries, the most S tiers so far since doing these videos. It also makes this the hardest for me to pick my all-time favorite. So you know, fun. Taiyaki Fabulous Museum of Fish. This game was a lot of fun. Highly addictive, the graphics / sound are good. The only issue is that the story is basically non-existent. But yeah, a really fun time if you like Picross. And hey, it's free. Dreamstone Mysteries. This game was a lot of fun. The characters and stories are really good. The graphics could use some new tile sets, but it's not too bad. It was an overall great time. Steam World Dig. This was genuinely fun. Highly addicting, the graphics and music are great. It's a really damn great Metroidvania, minus the final boss sucking. Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. Saw this for a friend's birthday, and it was fucking incredible. Great cinematography and story, lovable characters, and great writing. Genuinely fun from start to finish. The Wild Robot. Saw this with friends, and this was a great time. The animation is gorgeous, the characters are great, the story is great. The only issue I have is the pacing near the end. It does come off as a bit wonky, but as a whole, this is a fantastic fucking film. Pikmin 2. This is how you do a fucking sequel. It fixed a lot of the issues I had with the first game while still adding in new stuff that's really good, like the underground dungeons and the purple/white Pikmin, and even the team-up mechanic is cool. Really great stuff. Xenoblade Chronicles. This was incredible. The story is great, the graphics and sound are fantastic, and the main cast are incredibly lovable, my favorites being Shulk and Melia. My only issue is that some of the villains are flatter than a board and the grind can be annoying, but this was a lot of fun. K-pop Demon Hunters. Finally I saw it, and while the third act is the weakest part, the rest of it is fan-fucking-tastic. Fantastic animation and choreography, the main trio are great, the songs are fantastic, my favorites being Your Idol and What It Sounds Like, the story is good, etc. Really great stuff, and I'm excited for the sequel. Whenever it comes out, that is. Pokemon Legends ZA. A massive step up from Scarva in terms of its performance/story, the gameplay is fun, the cast of characters are fantastic, the new megas are really good, the audio is great, the customization is the best so far in the series, but the graphics could be a lot better, and we really need some fucking voice acting. Like I've been saying for a while, give Game Freak some time to fucking cook, please. Holy shit. Balatro. Highly addicting, great graphics and music, the roguelike elements work really damn well. It was fun, and really hard to put down. Legit, I spent so much time trying to complete all 8 stakes on the first deck that it's not even funny. And I'm sure I'll put in plenty more hours when the update finally comes out. Eventually, Boon Boonjer vs King Oger. I saw this with friends, and it was a lot of fun, and a great continuation to the events of Boon Boonjer's finale. The story is great, the action scenes and chemistry are fantastic, the characters are great. It's a really fun time. Very well done. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I feel like I'm in Bizarro land, but this game is fucking fantastic. The story and characters are great, level design is fantastic, as is the Metroidvania elements. The bosses are good. This was a genuinely fun experience from start to finish. Gravity Circuit. This game is legit a lot of fun. I love the fast-paced gameplay, the level design is fantastic, the pixel art is fantastic, as is the music, etc. It's a great love letter to the Mega Man series. My Adventures with Superman, Season 1. I already talked about this in the Mouse episode of the 90%, so I'll link that up top, but to TLDR, the cast is great, the pacing is great, the animation is top-notch, the story is fantastic, etc. This show gets what Superman's verse is all about, and it only gets better from here. Merchant of the Skies. Highly addicting, beautiful soundtrack and art style, this is a fucking masterpiece in my eyes. And to think, it's less than $20. Much like the launcher though, I had to eventually stop playing it because I didn't want to get consumed by it for the rest of the goddamn year, but yeah, this was really fun. Bakuage Sentai Boon Boonjer. Saw this with friends, and it was a really damn good time. I loved the main cast, the writing was great, the humor was top-notch, the battles were fantastic, the story was good, it was fucking fun. Probably one of the best Sentai I've seen so far. This is also why it makes it frustrating when I see Gozuger, the next series, and it just failed at so many aspects. However, Boon Boonjer is not my favorite of 2025, because one managed to do what Boon Boonjer did, but also do it better, and that is My Adventures with Superman, Season 2. I will never understand the hate this show got, because this was genuinely fun from start to finish. A fantastic cast, great writing, fantastic chemistry between Lois and Clark as well as Kara and Jimmy. Brainiac was fucking fantastic, the story and animation were top fucking notch. This and Season 1 were such a breath of fresh air for Superman adaptations, and I really fucking hope we not only get that 3rd season, but that Netflix acquisition didn't fuck over the team producing this show, because this crew was cooking with fucking gas. So that concludes this video. Did you agree? Disagree? Let me know in the comments below. Until then, have a fantastic day, everyone.